Cool. Well, Lauren, it's great to have you here. Thank you for taking part of the inaugural For the Record.
Thanks for
Um,
having me.
I know I gave you a bit of context when we saw each other in New York a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago, like that. Um, but yeah, it's a conversation-based series, talking with people who are intimately working in the business of sharing and discovering music with other people about their story and the music that moves and makes them. So that's what we're going to talk about. So we'd love to start at the beginning and just kind of get a sense of if you could just share like who you are and when your relationship with music started, and then we can work our way forward from there.
Sure. My name's Lauren Murada. I'm originally from Australia, currently living in New York. To track my relationship with music, my parents always said that when I was a little kid, I used to headbang in the car to the radio. It was particularly when Love Shack came on. I guess that was my first favorite song.
Um,
And then was just music obsessive always growing up. I think I was maybe 21 when I bought my first like record. Um, so I've been collecting for 15 years, DJing for probably around 10. Um, and yeah, now I'm lucky enough I get to DJ in New York City. It's pretty fun.
totally. Do you remember what the first record that you bought was?
Oh yeah, it was Happy House by Juan MacClean.
Nice.
Yeah, poor Juan. He's had to hear me tell that story a million times.
I mean, that's a pretty awesome story to hear from somebody though, that someone could only buy a first record one time to have that
Mm.
be your record. So that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I still play that record. I played it on the weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so tell me like about the journey of from buying your first record to discovering that love to wanting to DJ and share music with other people. Like how did that happen?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say even before I started buying records, I was like making mixtape for friends and things like that. And it kind of works into becoming a DJ because what I'd do is like when I was 18 or 19, if I was going to a house party, I'd create three mixed CDs. One would be like the warm up, one would be the party, and the third one would be the come down. And this is when mixed CDs were like 80 minutes each. So if you do, oh God, I'm not good at math. Three 80-minute mixes, it's a good few hours there. Oh yeah, it's like 4 hours. So that's like a DJ set, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But after I was collecting records for a couple of years, some friends of mine were like, Lauren, you need to learn how to DJ. This is ridiculous. Like, you're collecting all these records. You only have one turntable. So I got gifted by three different friends some equipment that was just kind of on permanent loan. So one person gave me a set of Technics turntables that they were like minding for a friend.
Cool.
Another friend gave me a mixer and speakers, and then another friend gave me a bunch of records that he said were like very friendly in terms of like their beats and BPMs to learn how to like beat match. And I had that set up basically in my apartment in Sydney until I moved here. So I'm very grateful to those three people who encouraged me in that way.
Mm.
And then when I moved to New York, I had to leave most of my record collection in Sydney. So it was kind of like starting again when I moved here in 2014. Just bought one record bag with me. But the good thing about New York is there's like a million good record stores.
That's true. They're not cheap.
You can find cheap ones. It depends where you go. Like for dance music, a shop like Human Head Records, they have really good $2 bins where you can find some classics in there for sure.
Cool. That's good to know. All right, shout to Human Head Records. Thank you for the service you provide.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when did you got to New York and you've been affiliated with the Good Room for quite a while now. How did you
Mhm.
first start that relationship?
A friend of mine was their original graphic designer. I moved to New York in December 2014, and Good Room opened in Halloween weekend 2014. So when I moved here, they'd only been open for like just over a month.
Mm.
And in speaking to my friend, he was telling me about working there, and I asked him, I was like trying to find a job. I was like a fresh, fresh off the plane, I guess. um, but yeah, I asked him if they needed any bartenders, and he said no, but they were looking for someone to do their social media. So he put me in touch with the booker, and I had a meeting that night, and it all kind of happened within like 5 days. But just as background, I used to work as a journalist, so I had, skills in communication and information to the public, really.
Totally. And you're a good writer. You've written for the Grey Matter website.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, and then what was the evolution of going from, working at the Good Room early days? I mean, also shout out to the Good Room. I've had many, many great nights at at both the Good Room and the Bad Room, sometimes
That's
both.
what I like to hear.
um, and so what was the evolution of working, doing some social media and communications? Obviously you still cared very deeply, about music and playing it for the people, even though your record collection was diminished at this point. What was what was the transition from like, okay, I'm at the Good Room, I'm gonna start DJing? How did that happen?
Well, I'm very lucky from working at Good Room. I met a wonderful group of people who cared about disco music as much as I did. This group was like coming to parties all the time, and just through being on the dance floor, I connected with these people. So they started inviting me to some different parties in New York, like Joy and the Loft, which, are quintessential New York disco parties. And just through this group of people, I met these two other female DJs, Lauren Gilet and Laura Morín. And they were already DJing as a collective called L&L Record Club.
Hmm.
And it turned out Laura and I, our birthdays are just a couple days apart. So they asked me if I wanted to do a special one-off L&L Record Club with them. And we did it that one night. And afterwards, Laura just looked at me. She was like, "No, baby, we're always L&L now." Yeah. And getting to like play with them led into a really beautiful friendship with both of these women. For them now, Laura just had a baby a week ago. So
Congratulations.
L&L isn't really gigging so much anymore these days.
Yeah. But
But
but you sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we had a solid run for about 5 years or so, which was really fun. We played all over New York and even in Montreal and LA and a couple other places. So
Very cool. Um, and and you've also played post LNL with other people. You started a party. Can you talk a little bit about those other projects?
yeah, so I started a party called Love Games at Good Room in 2017. It was when the club was trying to start doing more weeknight events, and so it was a bad room party. Um, Originally on Thursdays, and I started it by myself with like guests. The first guest was Dwayne Harriett, who does the Dwayne train on, is it WFMU or It's one of those classic New York stations. But and then I had Prince Language, JD Sampson from the Tigre, lots of like very quintessential New York DJs. So I did that for a little while by myself, and then a little while with L girls. Um, and then it moved to a Wednesday night because we were trying to do like bad room only Wednesdays, and I saw it as a good opportunity to like make some cool shit happen on a Wednesday when there's nothing else going on for people. And when I started on the Wednesdays, that's when I invited my friend Finn Jones to come and play with me. And again, that was meant to be a one-off, and we had so much fun. We were like, I guess we should do this again, and we did it again. Now we've been doing that since 2018. He and I have a lot of fun playing together. We basically, we're the same age. We grew up listening to the same kind of music, even though he was in London and I was in Australia. Just playing with him is really effortless. Like we can play one for one back to back for 8 hours, and I would never question what I was going to play next. I would never freak out. I really enjoy playing with Finn.
That's a lovely relationship to have.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of see him. He's like a brother.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and then sometimes I DJ with my boyfriend, Party Dad, too, who's also fun to play with.
I mean, it's a great name. It's Party.
Yeah,
Sounds fun.
yeah, he's a legitimate father, not of my children, but
Party Dad.
I just want to put that out there so nobody thinks he's like abusing the name.
Fair, fair. Noted. Um, cool. Amazing. Thank you for sharing your background and that context. Now I'm going to shift to asking you some of the harder questions about music.
Okay.
First one's easy. I'm curious if you were to, maybe it's not easy. Name a music community that you haven't mentioned that you want to give a shout to, just for being great, for whatever quality, for being an important connective tissue for a scene, for whatever reason, just the community that deserves to be known.
Ooh, this is a very good question. Does it matter where it is?
No, can be anything.
I think the music community in Sydney deserves a shout out because they were very resilient. I don't know if you know this, but in 2014, the state government there imposed some laws that made like clubbing very hard. Like prior to these lockout laws, clubs in Sydney used to be open until 6 a.m. Heaps of warehouse parties, like very thriving scene. In 2014, after some like alcohol related violence, the state government was like, well, this is all like the club's fault for being open so late, blah, blah, blah. And they made clubs stop serving alcohol at 3 a.m. So it kind of really killed the scene. And there were a lot of promoters who are, old friends of mine who I've known for years who had to try and like figure out what to do, like how to put on parties and fun for the people, but is also going to be like a good party for the DJ and also, make money for themselves. This is, their livelihood. And so, the scene then kind of changed to a lot of day parties happening on Sunday. I moved, at the end of 2014, so I didn't really see, like, I saw the changes immediately, but over those years, I wasn't there. I just heard from friends how everything was going. There was a lot of day parties. There wasn't a lot of late night parties. No warehouse parties. The cops completely cracked down on that. And then in, gosh, what year was it? I want to say maybe like 2019 or 2020, they rescinded these lockout laws. And in I went back to Australia during COVID and saw the scene like thriving because in Australia, like there was no really COVID restrictions because we didn't have a problem for a good while there.
Mm.
So that's kind of like a long-winded story, but I think like these promoters who have been in Sydney who weathered that storm have come through stronger now. Like when I was back in Australia in March this year, there's new venues opening for the
Cool.
first time in years, which was really great to see. And like there's like a new generation of kids who are going out clubbing because they didn't really like, first of all, they had COVID, like they were like, well, they came of age during COVID, so people weren't really going out as much. Also, like they didn't know that you could go out later than like 2 a.m., you know? So people are learning how to party again. And yeah, I think that whole Sydney scene deserves a shout out. There's some friends of mine, promoters like Picnic and Mad Racket. Oh, goodness. There's so many of them. I'm not going to remember them all. But yeah, I would shout out to them.
Okay, cool. Picnic and Mad Racket are two of the people.
Yeah, Astral People. That's another good one. I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
Okay.
All the
Cool.
love to the Sydney peeps.
Great answer. Amazing. Okay, now next question for you. There are three artists of note. It could also be tracks that you heard for the first time in the past year that you really dig.
Okay. Well, I think Amy Douglas is an artist who I had her I had her play at our Glen Falls party last year, and I guess I really got to know her music in the past year. She's a very fierce New York born and bred woman who has like an incredible voice, and she's written music for like Roisin Murphy and people like that. And she's really stepping up her own game right now. She has like a new record that just came out on Razor and Tape called A Freak at Night, and it's like incredible. So Amy Douglas is definitely like a new person to me that I've really been loving. Okay, two more. People I've heard. Uh, I feel like I should, have all the answers because I work at the club. But I think the problem is I have too many nights at the club.
Yeah.
Mall. Hmm. Wait, can I like look through a calendar and just like
Totally. Use whatever resources. Yeah, it's not a test.
let me look at like my work calendar and I can see pick some notable DJs who I've seen in the past year.
Yeah, this is full acknowledgement that these questions are impossible to narrow down to three, but that's the point, you know.
Right. Yeah. Mm. Um I say so there's a group called Each Other. I did hear their music before a year ago, but they just started doing a live show within the last year. And getting to see their live show has been really special. So, these two guys who have both been around for a really long time, Justin Strauss, who's like a New York legend, he's singing in the group, and it's kind of funny if you know Justin because he's very quiet in person, and then when he's on stage he just has this whole different presence, which is really cool to see. And then Max Pask is there playing all the synths and like drum machines and everything like that, and they make really interesting, like it's kind of an intersection of like new wave and Italo with techno, very driving, very chuggy, but like makes your body kind of like have that. It's irresistible to dance to. If you're hearing it, you can't like not shrug your shoulders or something. Okay, so that would be my second one. Mm, let's see. Ooh, okay. I thought of someone else who I have seen in the last year who I think is really good. An artist called D Diggs.
B-Dig.
Um, yeah, she is New York born and raised DJ. She actually just released her first track, I think maybe 2 weeks ago on Toucan Sounds. But she's been DJing for a while. Like I think she had a show on the Lot Radio for a while, but I only saw her for the first time last year. And from that, I ended up asking her to play at my Love Games party. And she is a really great mix of like, she'll play all the old New York classic disco and house, but also mix it with contemporary techno and things like that. It's very sexy the way that she plays. There's no like stop and start. Everything really like grooves, it flows beautifully. So yeah, D Diggs is another artist I've seen in the last year who I really like.
Cool. All right, Amy Douglas, each other, D Diggs.
Yeah, and they're all New York people. Kind of got to represent, right?
Yeah, totally. It's where you are. All right, here's one for you. Most underappreciated artist from your favorite music decade.
Whoa. God damn. Okay. My favorite music decade, it's not really like a decade per se. It kind of goes over 2 decades, but my favorite years for music are 1976 to 1984.
Okay, that counts. That's even less than 10 years.
Yeah, because it's kind of like you had all of the 70s rock stuff there. New wave and Italo. There's a lot going on in that scene. Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know if they're underappreciated. I feel like if you're into Italo, you know who this group is, but if you're into dance music, you wouldn't know who this group is. But they're called Lime. They were a duo out of Montreal in the early 80s. And even though they're French Canadian, but they made like Italo kind of stuff. And about half of it is really cheesy. Like, it's not really like something I'd play on the dance floor. But the other stuff is like the other half of the stuff is really good. And the thing that I like most about them is that it really like it hits you, like they're talking a lot about love because they were in a relationship together. And I find their music to be really beautiful on multiple levels.
Amazing. Good answer. All right, and now for the hard question. You're going to a desert island, you get to bring 3 records with you. What are they?
Okay. My first pick would be Bright Like Neon Love by Cut Copy.
Nice.
That's their first record. My second one would be Turn on the Bright Lights by Interpol.
Cool.
Now the third one. Let's have a think. It'd have to be some kind of like 70s rock or like 80s Australian new wave. Trying to like hit all the different parts of my personality here, like because like Cut Copy's Bright Like Neon Love was probably the first dance music album that I truly, truly loved. And then Interpol was like my, very melancholic high school self.
Same.
I listened to that album like every day for a year after I saw them in concert, and I still love it. So that's a good sign. All right. I am going to say Flowers. Okay. This is kind of confusing, but there's an Australian band called Ice House.
Oh yeah, I know Ice House. Ice House is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So originally their first album, they were called Flowers, and the album was called Ice House. Then after the album, they took the name Ice House as the band. So it's kind of confusing whether you call it like if the album is Ice House by Flowers or if it's Flowers by Ice House. But there are some beautiful tracks on there, very early new wave synth stuff. And they're Aussie, so I have a soft spot for them.
Totally. They're the ones who do that song "No Promises," right?
Oh yeah, that song is
Song rules.
so good. Yeah.
So good. Oh man, I'm gonna listen to that song right after this.
Hell yeah. I'll put it on too. We can each have our own moment with it.
Cool. I've also been listening to a lot of Interpol lately, so it feels like we're aligned. Something in the cosmos.
Yeah, we must have had a similar musical upbringing to them.
Could be. Cool. So those are the hard questions. I just have one more for you. If you can name anybody who you think we should have on for the series, who's like works with sharing discovering music, whether they own a record shop or are a DJ, work at an independent music label, something like that. Who comes to mind?
I think I have this friend. His name is Ben Steidel. He's an interesting one in that he was in a band called Lemonade in like the mid to late 2000s. It got pretty popular. They had like a really good Pitchfork review that made them go crazy, and they toured with like Sebastian Tellier and all these people. Right. And then after that, he became a DJ. The band isn't really around anymore, but all during that time too, he was like working in record stores. He worked at Amoeba in San Francisco back in the day, and now he owns Brooklyn Record Exchange. So I reckon he'd be a pretty interesting person for you to speak to. I can put you in touch with him if you would like.
Love that. Would love to chat with him.
All right, cool. I'll reach out to him.
Thank you, Lauren. And last question for you, for people who might listen to this, who want to follow along with your music, with your projects, come hang out at the Good Room or the Bad Room. What's the best place for them to follow along?
I guess my Instagram, that has all my dates and, party promotion. I post my radio sets on there as well. So, I mean, my Instagram is at Lauren_Murada.
Oh,
yeah.
You heard it here. Go follow Lauren. Check out what she's doing. It's a bunch of cool shit. Pay attention. But Lauren, this has been really great. Thank you so much for being the very first person to come on for the record. This was great.
I mean, you don't have to ask me twice to talk about music.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe the best thing to talk about.
Definitely. Oh, well, thank you. Nice to see you.
Absolutely. Nice to see you too. And, talk to you soon.
Definitely.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Take care.